Welcome to Combat Chatter, a Star Wars The Old Republic podcast, brought to you by RepublicTrooper.com. Combat Chatter covers the latest hot topics and breaking news surrounding Star Wars The Old Republic, BioWare, and the greater Tor community.
All right, what's going on, everyone? You are listening to Combat Chatter, and I am your host, Andy at Republic Trooper, and this is episode 2. And today we have a little bit of a different cast of characters joining us on the show. Unfortunately, Tim, our fan fiction author, was unavailable today due to some real-life issues that he had going on. But I am joined by Dave and Mike from RepublicTrooper.com, and as promised, we have a special guest on the show today as well. Steven Johnston, the president of Guild Launch, is here with us today, and he's going to be hanging out with us for the duration of the show, too. So we're super excited to have Steven with us, along with Dave and Mike. So what's going on, everybody? Say hello.
Hey, everybody. What's going on, troops?
Hey, everybody. This is Mike. Nice to meet you.
Hey, everybody.
All right, cool. All of us are here. It's the 4 of us today. So in just a minute, we're going to talk a little bit more in depth with Steven about Guild Launch, and more specifically kind of what TOR guilds hosted on Guild Launch have to look forward to in terms of some features and things like that coming out for Star Wars The Old Republic. But first, a quick programming note in regards to our podcast here, Combat Chatter. A lot of you have been asking since our last episode if we would ever be available on iTunes, and we're very proud to announce that we are now available on iTunes. So if you prefer to listen to us on your iPod, iPad, or other Apple device, you can go to RepublicTrooper.com. You can click on the iTunes link in the header of our website. That'll take you to our iTunes artist page, and you can subscribe to the podcast there. And as always, you can listen via RepublicTrooper.com or our YouTube channel as well. So we're pretty happy about that. And yes, we're going to have a little clapping sound effect going on because we're all excited about iTunes. But anyways, enough of that iTunes stuff. One other quick thing we want to do here. Is we want to introduce Mr. Mike Kern, our latest team member to join the RepublicTrooper.com team. He's one of our new writers. We're very excited to have him on board helping us out with the website. So, Mike, why don't you say what's up and, give us the 60-second version of your life story.
All right. Hey, troops. This is Mike Kern. I joined Republic Trooper about a week ago. My second 60-second life story is I started fan fiction writing when I was about 15. Started doing Star Wars back then. Been a big fan ever since. Started doing MMOs with EverQuest. Played just about every MMO since. Continued doing lots of writing as well. Fan fiction and then short stories. In college, I did some editorials and newspaper writing. And then later on, went to grad school for creative writing. And once I graduated from there, I had to go out and get a real job. But I'm super excited to be part of Republic Trooper, and now I get to write for games, so that's pretty awesome.
Oh, wait, Mike. We know doing the grind of the real job is rough, so Andy and I were talking, and we are prepared to offer you a salary of $1.20 a year if you want to come work for us.
Yeah.
Hey, that will pay my mortgage. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah,
No
exactly.
problem.
No, that's awesome, man. We're totally excited to have you on board, and it's always good to have more writers on the site, so we can keep producing good original content. But yeah, cool. So up next, let's talk Guild Launch. And for those of you who may not know, Guild Launch is a top-tier guild hosting company that's available for gaming guilds. I believe that they're one of the largest, if not the largest, out there. And one of their founders, Steven Johnston from Guild Launch, is here with us today. So, Steven, we really appreciate you hanging out with us. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about Guild Launch and what you guys are doing over there?
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me on, and glad to be here to talk about Swatter and its ramp up to launch, which I know everybody's excited about. So, to give you the background on Guild Launch, we are a guild hosting service. We say that we like to help gamers slay more dragons. At the core, our goal is to help people who play online games be better at those games, and to build community and to provide the team building, the planning, the strategizing, and tools for celebrating, as well as voice over IP, and really whatever comes along that's going to help our customers have more fun or have more success in a game. And the core product that we have now is the guild hosting product and voice communications. But we're just always out there looking for new things to do and talking to our customers and saying, hey, how does this work for you? What do you want to see? What kind of tool would be useful for you? And so, in games, there's, key tracking and, low head radiance and all this stuff. So we're always building these custom tools that, let people track this stuff easier, let them reduce the amount of time that they spend just with the minutia of a game, and the minutia of managing a group of people that might be 100 people or 500 people or 1,000 people large, and removing a lot of the technical aspects of that so they can just play the game and have fun. So that's us in a nutshell, and we're super excited about Swatter.
Along with about 5 million other people, we're there with you.
Yeah, exactly. What are we, like 74 days to go?
Yeah. Well, the Star Wars universe, I love it. I played Star Wars Galaxies and ran
SWG, shout out.
Yeah, I ran a combat medic shop with a friend. We had like an entire guild of people out there collecting resources in order to make combat medic stuff. And I wrote tools for that game that actually parsed your vendor logs so you could see like what was selling and how much was selling, and you could do price comparison and all this stuff.
Impressive.
So the when I look at Swatter, it's really that's definitely going to be a game that we get into as a labor of love, because that's why we built this company, is to make tools for games that we love to play. And we might support 200 and something games at this point, and it's hard for us to play 200 and something games. But Star Wars: The Old Republic is going to be one of those games that we're all playing because when we go home we play it, on the weekends we play it, and we're going to be sitting there saying, well, it'd be really neat if there was an online tool that did this, and then we're going to be able to go build that tool.
And talking about tools, that's one concern out in the community right now, and it's actually one that's a very specific concern to me, and I've brought it up to Andy several times, is Republic Trooper, once the game launches, or once the NDA is lifted, in fact, we intend to start focusing on gathering as much information for the Trooper as possible. I mean, that's eventually the goal, and always has been. So we do know that BioWare said that there will likely be support for add-ons later on in the game. Do you think parsers and such will be available as soon as the game launches for things such as that?
Well, there may be parsers available. I'll tell you, they probably won't be legal parsers. There's sort of a food chain of how you can get game data, or a tier of how you can get game data. You can actually look at memory and start to extract data. And there's ways that the game developers combat that. You can extract data from the files on the system and get certain data out of that, and that's typically not acceptable. It's typically against the usage policies and all of that. The next level up is if there's any logging system in the game, it typically has some value to someone who's wanting to parse it. So we saw this with some other games that have released recently, where they just have a way that you type dump guild or dump raid, and it just dumps out an XML file of who's in the raid, and we do some parsing for that. And so far we haven't seen that talked about publicly. I don't know what their plan is.
Have you guys reached out, or do you guys have any sort of formal relationship with BioWare in terms of your guild sites and guild hosting, and any tools that you might be able to supply to Tor guilds?
We have a relationship with Tor Syndicate, which is one of the podcasts that was at the fan, or the fan summit last year. or earlier this year, and Mark Taylor with them had brought up a couple of times, what is going to be the level of API support, and they, were giving very much the sort of safe answer of we're looking into it, not on the plan for launch. When it comes to any data that's available on the web, there are ways to get it and there are ways to parse it. As a company, we like to provide the best service we can, and so we try not to use brittle connections that is going to provide a low quality of service. You can go out and you can parse HTML and you can get all these things that are just really sort of unwieldy, and then claim that you're providing the service. But every time if Bioware changes something small, it's going to break, and it becomes a sort of nightmare. We really prefer to work with add-ons or to work with approved APIs, partly because by the time a game gets going, our volume is so large that just doing HTML parsing is not something that's going to go unnoticed by the company. So we're definitely talking with them as much as we can through the channels that we do have about, API support. I think that the nature of how they're building the game, they are trying to do maybe a little bit more than some of the other game companies have. You see that with the Guild platform they already have, that they want to build online tools, and they have not indicated definitively whether that also includes APIs.
You know what I think? If I had to guess what they're doing, they're trying to get this great blockbuster, or soon to be blockbuster, if I could bet my money on it, title out the door. And if people understand MMO communities at all, they're going to know that the first time anything's hinted at, players are going to ask why it's not in at launch. A matter of fact, Andy and I have had this discussion about space combat. I see it from one side, he sees it from the other. I think it's great that they put the rail shooter in to start, okay? And he sees it from the other side in that it's a tease, in that if they weren't going to put full space combat in, they shouldn't have put it at all. So you can definitely see players, if you show them a little bit of a inkling of something and you don't deliver everything, they're going to be scampering after it. So,
and I'm still angry about it.
I mean, I think it's one of the great challenges of product development, exactly what you're describing, that has actually sort of been exacerbated by the move to more agile methods. Agile programming a lot of times ends up with things that are fully functional, but not actually fully baked. So like it's full. I call it fully functional but totally broken.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Because it works and it accomplishes exactly what it was supposed to do, but the definition of supposed to do doesn't actually meet the customer's expectations. And I think you see some other companies dealing with that. And like you're saying, they go out and they say, we're going to have space combat. And they know if that's not on the checkbox and not at launch like you described, they got to have something that says space combat. And they're sort of gambling that having some form of space combat is worth more than not having it at all. Even though people are going to say exactly what you're describing, which is, well, this isn't really the space combat I wanted. I think it'll be cool. And you have to sort of ask yourself, what is a Star Wars game without the concept of space? In Star Wars, there is a fair bit of space combat in the earlier movies. There is a lot of space combat in the books and in the lore. So you have to have space. And I think that hopefully the rail system is enough to get people talking about what they want to see in the first expansion or in a later update.
I think Andy and all the folks out there like him who don't think the on rails is pretty good for launch are out of their minds. That's all I'm going to say. It's that simple.
You're telling me about that line.
I'm kind of with Andy on the rail system a little bit. I'm not as it shouldn't be there. I'm happy they put it in at all. I grew up on TIE Fighter and X-Wing versus TIE Fighter and all of those games, and having any kind of space combat for me is awesome.
But that's why it has to be in, you know what I mean? Like Steven was saying, dude, anybody who's a Star Wars fan, you have to have space combat. It's in the movies, it's in the books, it's in all the other games. To not have it would be bad news, you know.
Well, I have to believe that it's it's going to come in time. I think that's a big game addition to put into the game, maybe even this early, like Jump to Light Speed was for Star Wars Galaxies.
Right. That was a big X
I mean,
pack for them.
yeah, they took a while to put that out there, but it was good when they did. And if BioWare decides to do it, they'll do it well.
And I believe it was Daniel Erickson just a couple of weeks ago. BioWare didn't say, yes, we're doing it, but they did say that if the community wants bigger space combat after launch, they couldn't see not doing it. That was the kind of answer they gave. Like, hey, look, if the players want it bad, I can't imagine it'll be no.
So you heard it here first, community. Go hit the forums and go post that you want free form space in the Old Republic, and they will add it. From Dave.
Oh man. Well,
Yeah.
I guess the letters from the lawyers will be coming in a couple days, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
This is the last podcast of Republic Trooper. We'll be signing
Yeah,
off.
yeah. There we go. We're out of business. But back to Guild Launch for a minute. You know, I knew you guys were huge. I never realized that you guys were supporting over 200 games. But I mean, more specifically, is there anything like new coming out or new features, or have you seen an increase in like specifically TOR guilds? Like, do you guys have anything out there that's going to be specific to TOR that maybe like a WoW guild wouldn't have, or an Eve guild or an Eve corporation wouldn't have, or something like that?
The recruiting, the way we approach recruiting is something we've been wanting to modify a little bit, as far as listing, like what class or subclass you're looking for. And we're actually going to start creating very specific recruiting widgets per game, and Tor will be the first one that we launch that for. And right now it's a generic, very, very dynamic system. It was focused on supporting as many games as possible and supporting them well, but it's basically just based on typing a name and a number that you want. We want to give people, it sounds like less flexibility, but more specificity. So they can go in and say, we're looking for a consular, and I'm going to show my memory on what the consular advanced classes are, but a consular specific advanced class, and then later be able to say maybe one that specs into whatever. Building a system that's going to let us get a little more of that spec specific information into the recruiting info will be something we launch before Tor launch, and it will be built in such a way that we can add on as the community starts to communicate back to us what's important to them. We don't want to make it so you have to go through and check like 100 boxes in order to recruit people, but we want to make sure that you can get across the most important information. And that's an advantage of the current system, because you just type it in. So if the community thinks that water carrying buffalo consulars is
Right.
is really good, they just type that in and then put 12. We want 20, water carrying buffalo consulars. But we want to make some systems that let them recruit more specifically for that. Talk about what they're looking for in their recruiting, things like that. We just recently updated all the icons for what we have, as far as race and class and advanced class and then spec info. So the recruiting piece is sort of the next thing. If an API becomes available, we are going to be on that just as heavy as we can, and that's probably the biggest chunk of development that we would do for Swatter when it comes out. Other than that, we are going to keep on templates, because there's going to be a lot of players, there's going to be a lot of different ideas, there's going to be a lot of different visions of sort of what they want to represent in their site. So right now we're focusing on making templates that look sort of like the overall marketing material for Swatter. They're focused on Sith, they're focused on Empire, and showing some of the classes. And we will start to make more specific templates based on feedback from the community. And we've seen good response so far. I think overall the existing guild system is sort of showing people that, hey, it's kind of neat to have forums, and then they're coming to us because we have a more robust, more developed system. We really try to focus on what the community's feeding back to us, and right now we're focused on community building and recruiting, and that's where we're going to put our focus. Then we're going to focus on templates, and when the game launches, people are going to start coming at us fast and furious, and that's where I think we shine, is the ability to deliver on customer requests.
Actually, I don't think we've mentioned it because we've been talking with you guys for a month or so now. But we've actually we have a relatively large, 150 or so
Right.
uh, member Republic Guild, and we've actually been on Guild Launch. We've been hosted on the Guild Launch site for almost a year now. One of our officers was asking just recently. He said it'd be really nice to have a way that every time an officer posts, it stands out. Kind of like choosing highlights of a certain type automatically for officer posts. Is there a way to do that, or is there a plan to do that eventually? If not,
There is right now what we have is a system to color ranks, and we'd like to expand that to then color for those ranks, color their posts.
Oh, that'd be cool. Kind of like the developers on the actual TOR official forums. They're yellows or
Yeah,
like
exactly.
wild
So
or
you could
blues.
go in and put guildmaster rank. And one of the things that we've run into and why this isn't out now is because we started to think that possibly ranks aren't a one-to-one relationship, and that we need to start thinking of them as roles more than ranks. So we're working with some of that to get the rank system a little more dynamic, so that you could make a person an admin and a guildmaster and an officer leader, an officer and a raid leader, and an educator if you have people that sort of help others, or an assistant, and then order those ranks so that the most, for coloring and things like that, their most advanced rank takes over. It's something we definitely want to add, because people see it in game forums and then they come to us and say, hey, I've seen this in WoW, I've seen this in other forums like the Swatter forums when the GM posts, and it'd be cool. So it is on the long-term plan.
Cool, man. Well, yeah, thanks for hanging out and telling us a little bit more about Guild Launch and some of your services and things like that you guys are going to be working on for Star Wars: The Old Republic. Like Dave said, we're very excited for the game to come out here. We got about 74 more days to go. And speaking of that, let's talk TOR. There's a lot of things going on in the TOR community this week. I don't know about you guys. Did any of you guys happen to get an email that said, thank you for playing in the beta when you haven't been added into the beta?
Yes, it was a really fun email that I got.
Did you cry like I did when you read it?
Yeah, I was like, did I miss something?
well,
That
Andy,
was my
how
favorite thing.
how did you cry? To show Mike, and then maybe he can tell you. If you
Yeah,
cried
it
the
was.
same way.
I was openly weeping and like rocking in the corner, sucking my thumb. Man, I was like so bummed.
I had the thought, kind of like when you wake up and you realize you're completely late for work, and I kind of went, "Oh my God, I missed a beta weekend," and then it turns out it was just a big old hoax. So
Yeah, it was funny. I was like downstairs. I wasn't even on my computer, and I got the email on my phone, and I don't know, like me and my girlfriend are hanging out, eating dinner, whatever we were doing, and I was like, oh my God, and I like flipped out, like ran upstairs and started like frantically checking all my emails and all, I have 2 different TOR accounts. I'm checking both of those, and both of them are like, you go to swtor.com/tester, and it's like, update your account info. And it was like, what is going on? Like, I was really bummed, but a lot of people were saying too that it was a virus and it was all this BS. There was all these rumors on the internet, but yeah, BioWare had to send the email out that said like, hey, sorry, we just screwed up.
I thought that it was, I mean, before I saw the major outcry, I got the emails and was literally like, that's weird, because I'm already in the beta, so why would they be thanking me? And oh, hold on a second, is it over? When I got the survey, and I just sort of didn't even pay attention to the emails. Then I went on the Swatter forums, and I went on Twitter, and it was like, I think the best description I saw was, 1,000 Swatter fans cried out in horror.
Oh yeah, Twitter was awesome, dude. It totally like erupted. People were like coming unglued, and you made a good point, because I forgot it wasn't just one email, but it was 2.
It was 2, and one was like, "Thanks for participating."
Right.
Also, here's a survey, pre-order, and I was like, "What?"
Oh yeah, people
people
were so upset, man. Some of those posts on the forums and stuff were pretty funny. They're like, now you're just playing with my heartstrings, guys. But the thing that I thought was the best was, I don't know how closely you guys follow the forums, but there were people that were literally posting, and they were like, I've had it. I'm not going to play the game anymore because of this. And it was like, really? Like, you're not going to play the game anymore because you got an email? I don't know. I thought people kind of overreacted, but I don't know. I do think BioWare did a moderate job in trying to clean it up. My personal thought is everybody that got one of those, they should have probably added them in somehow.
I think Palpatine sent out those emails to foment hate and fear throughout the Republic.
Correct.
Yeah, it was all just Republic players that got it, right?
Yeah,
The Sith guys
right.
didn't count.
Exactly. But go ahead,
Andy, I just
dude.
wanted to mention that it's funny. The second email, the one that trying to remember exactly what it said about pre-ordering, that was what actually made me sort of get a little bit worried the most, because it made me wonder if my pre-order had gotten screwed up somehow. I'm one of those guys that got the collector's edition. So I'm like, and there's so few of them now, and I was worried that it gotten screwed up.
Yeah, I actually worried about the same thing, because I mean, I had my collector's edition and I had my code in the system 18 seconds after it became available.
Yeah, same here.
I was at like 6 a.m. in the morning on that Saturday or Sunday where it became available, and or whatever it was. And I wondered the same thing. I'm like, don't they know I already registered a pre-order in the system? I mean, it's obviously a major snafu. I think the people freaking out. I look at it and it's an indication to these guys the passion that people have for this game.
Right.
And I think that if the Swatter team isn't looking at that as one of those like blessings in disguise, they clearly have people on the edge of their seat for this thing.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I never actually looked at it like that. I guess the fact that like people literally freaked out, it's because they're, everybody knows the beta weekend invites are going out and random general testing invites are going out. And, I'm kind of the same way, man. Like, I'm monitoring my email like 24/7, just wait. It's like, please send it to me. Please send it to me. And when I got that, I see that's like, hey, from no reply at BioWare, and it was like, OMG, like, I'm going to be in. And then I get the like, hey, please come back soon and order the game. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I never left. And B, I already did order the game. What are you guys doing to me? But yeah, I wasn't as upset as some people. I mean, I work in IT for a living and things happen, but, I did think it was pretty funny, though.
Well, I think one of the greatest things about this is, in years from now, hopefully, I mean, Tor, I can imagine will go on for years, they'll still remember that beta snafu, that email that comes out. It'll be one of those things that lives on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it'll become an internet meme eventually,
Right. It's like, I think Stephen Reed, like poor Stephen Reed, man, his Twitter got blown up from direct
He was
messages.
traveling when it happened too.
Yeah, that's right. He said he posted, he's like, look, I just got off a plane. I was like 6 hours delayed. I got to go to the office and figure out it's like midnight.
I can totally see him in the airport, like slow, spotty internet, and he's like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah, public Wi-Fi sucks. But yeah, no, they kind of screwed up. But I do think that they, I mean, what can you do? Mistakes are going to happen, and like you said, that was a good point. It just shows that they have a hardcore fan base that is, essentially spamming F5 in their email, refreshing, hoping for an invite every day. But we're getting close. We got about 2 months to go, and we'll be there for everybody. But
and I totally forgot to mention during what we were talking about earlier, we do have a Swatter countdown widget now. So you can
cool.
put it on your site and it shows the number of days and hours and minutes and seconds. And there's a special surprise when it hits 0.
No, oh, cool. That's awesome. I was gonna say, yeah, there's got to be something at the end, right?
I just put the general countdown widget on there, so I'll have to update it to the.
Yeah, and we've got that so people can count down to anything, and then for the big game launches, we make a special one. So
at the end, when it hits 0, it should play this.
Or when they realize it's been pushed back an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Server's down.
You know what though? I don't know what you guys are talking about with the collector's edition. There's still 2 available on Amazon, starting from $449. That's not bad at all.
Right, in the auction area or whatever it is.
Yeah, right. I don't know why I panicked. You're right.
No, I mean, I was the same way. I had my collector's edition. I think I registered my code. It was probably within, like by 9 in the morning that morning or something. But yeah, anyways, BioWare had a beta email in case you guys hadn't heard or didn't get one. It was actually pretty funny. Moving on a little bit here, since I'm lousy at transitions, we're just going to like hard stop that one and move on to the next one. Did any of you guys get a chance to look at this week's Friday update, the 3D Galaxy map? What did you guys think about that?
I thought it looked like a galaxy. kind of in 3D, and it was kind of like a map.
Yeah, it was. I was expecting more from that one. I don't know what's going on there on
I
the Friday updates.
I love the ships. I thought the ships were the best part of it.
Me too. That was my favorite thing too. Was the starship info. I actually thought that was the best part about it. But it wasn't actually easy to find that stuff. It was like one of the little hidden buttons. But then you can kind of do like the 3D tour of
Yeah.
of all the starships and get all the details and stuff like that.
And
But
as you zoom in and out, their engines get louder and quieter, and
Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. I mean, I think it's clear that they're pushing towards launch because they're releasing Friday updates that are primarily fluff.
I said that exact thing. People were complaining recently, Steven,
right,
not to
he did.
interrupt you. I said that was it today on our forums? People are like their stuff's starting to get weak on Friday. I said, you realize they've been putting something out every Friday for
3
2
years, 2 or 3 years, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, think of the the challenge of that is for 3 years, 150 weeks coming up with something really newsworthy, and they've done a pretty good job of it. Either being, I think this is a continuation of the more lore related Friday updates that they were doing a lot, 6-8 months ago or whatever.
Yeah, they like
I don't know the
completely abandoned those things. Those are the ones that like
Yeah.
Lance Henriksen did the voiceover or whatever. Those were awesome. And
Yeah, they were cool, and this I think is a little more complimentary to that. I think maybe this is a little more towards people who don't know the lore as much or just want to get a graphical side of it.
what did happen to those? What happened to those updates? Did they ever say?
you know, all I've heard is I haven't heard anything official, but kind of like what Steven said is they haven't released one in like 6 or 8 months, and there's a lot of rumors. Everyone's like, listen, they're in the launch window. They've got better stuff to work on. Somebody else said though that they were intentionally delaying them, and again, this is all rumor mill internets, so like don't blow up my Twitter about this. But somebody said that what they were doing was they were saving it for post-launch content that they could actually release timeline style stuff and have it pertain more to the game somehow. But who knows if that's true? I have no idea about that. All I know is they used to come about once a month and maybe once every other month, and now they're just gone.
I know what happened. They said they were only going to do two CGI movies originally. They put the money towards that third movie. They said they were only going to do 2 CGI movies, and then they decided to do a third, and then they couldn't pay Lance Henriksen anymore.
Well, see,
So-
that's what I thought. Maybe Lance Henriksen was like, dude, I want more cash. Like maybe he was like, oh, cool, I'll do some voice work for a video game, and then he realized, oh crap, this thing's gonna be like a bazillion-dollar game. Like I want to cut, and they were like, later, dude.
So
Well,
what's the budget for this game estimated at?
95 to 150 million is the rumor, right?
So we'll take a middle
it's-
thing at 115 million. They were like, you know what? I don't know if we can pay this voice actor anymore.
Yeah, they were like, he hasn't been good since Aliens anyway, so what can we do?
Hey, don't mess
Well,
with Lance.
there was that one Van Damage movie, right?
I do have an actual serious thought about
Okay.
what might have happened with that.
Okay, go for it.
This is just speculation. Don't hold me to it. But I've noticed that most of the lore stops with the Treaty of Coruscant, and that's about when the timeline ends on those, I believe. And they really haven't released anything from the time that treaty happens until whenever the game starts. It's supposed to be what, 10 years later? I'm not even sure.
Well, look at the big brain on Mike. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking, man. Is that's the rumors that they're gonna continue them, but they're gonna tie it into post-launch content, I guess. Nobody knows. It's all speculation, but yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I loved him though. I want to see him come back. So who knows? Who knows what we can do about that?
Well, there's supposed to be a book, and there's more of those. So maybe they are just holding it back because the game is supposed to be the rest of it.
Maybe they're gonna email people about it incorrectly. Speaking of email, let's move on to the next topic. Some of you out there may have gotten an email about this coming weekend. Well, I guess by the time you hear this, this probably won't be news because the weekend will be over. But starting October 7th, there's a new beta weekend coming. It is a month overdue. We were hoping to get more beta weekends in September, and we only got the one. And everyone was kind of expecting, it to be every weekend, and they only did one in September. They're doing their second one October 7th through October 10th. And what do you guys think? You think we're going to see more beta weekends in October? Or you think they're going to do the same thing, just a single weekend?
I think they may do one more beta weekend, but I don't know if it'll be October. I think you'll see one more beta weekend ever between after this one and launch.
So you think
That's
what,
my
like
guess.
November? You think?
Yeah, probably November. I'm guessing early November because I'm guessing by second or third week of November they're gonna have to start pressing discs. The 20th is the release date, and early launch will be what more than a weekend, but less than weeks. So I'm guessing 5 to 7 days, which is a pretty common guess. So I'm guessing that they're gonna have to be pressing by late November to start getting stuff ready for ship.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I know me and you have talked about this offline, not on the podcast so much, but I'm still really let down by the fact that, we're in October and we're only at our second beta weekend. I mean, you were there at PAX, man. That they hammed it up quite a bit, and then it was like, oh well, somebody like was a little overzealous and this and that, and they didn't actually say blah blah blah, and I don't know about that. Like, I think people are expecting more. So I would at least personally hope that there's at least one more beta weekend in October and maybe one in November. But like you said, we're running out of time. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to have to stop these things eventually and actually focus on boxing the game.
I don't know that they're going to stop.
You think they're going to keep them going?
I think they'll go wide open in about 3 weeks, for November into a not a full open beta. I think that they'll keep it pretty open.
I think that would be awesome if they did that. I know a lot of people are dying.
It won't be Head Start, though, because it won't be a character you can keep. They're still going to do a reset and a wipe.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, I think they'll go with a beta right up to launch of Head Start.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with Steven on that one, too. They'll probably do a beta even after they've pressed the gold. The thing that I kind of worry about when they do stuff like that, though, is they find bugs all the way up to launch and the discs have already been printed. So you're going to get that first patch right when, the game launches.
I haven't seen a game launch without a patch.
I was just thinking the same thing, man. So, there's no way that it's not going to have any kind of bugs at launch.
I'll be surprised if 5% of the discs that are pressed ever get put into a drive. More and more often people are downloading games, and this one's going to be at least at launch, the majority of people are pre-ordering, and they're going to if you pre-order, you're going to get the download, because you're going to get the download
for early access, right?
And then you're going to get your discs. After that, it's getting pretty standard. I mean, people might pop their discs in if they have slow connections or they can't log in, but most big game companies are doing it now. Blizzard does it. I mean, as long as you register, your old games, Diablo 2, Warcraft 3, everything. Once you've registered your stuff, you can download the software from their site, from your account, forevermore after that. So
I think with the MMOs, they need the key. They know it's one account. I mean, MMOs have built-in DRM, so they don't care about giving you the client.
Right. So yep. I mean, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get my collector's edition box, and honestly, the only reason I'm going to open it is because I want to get my my little Darth Malgus statuette or whatever it is that comes in it, so I can put it on my desk at work. Other than that, I'd leave it sealed, and that thing would be worth money in a couple of years. But yeah, beta weekend. There's a new beta weekend coming this weekend, or if you're listening to this when you're listening to this, it'll have been last weekend. But yeah, one last thing we kind of wanted to talk about, and this actually was brought up by Mike. I guess Stephen Reed made a post about some RP PvP servers and some things like that, and he had a few things to say. Mike, why don't you enlighten me on that, because I didn't actually read the whole thing.
Okay, there were some questions asked. Will there be an RP PvP server, which has been a pretty standard thing lately, because they're going to have role-playing servers, and they're going to have PvP servers and PvE servers. And he came back saying, yes, we have officially decided we are going to have RP PvP, but the RP, the role-playing aspect of the server, will not be enforced, which means you can't come to yes
exactly.
Unfortunately, you can't complain about people not in character all the time. And what's interesting about that statement to me is I have never seen a game with a role-playing server that did enforce that stuff. So it's kind of funny to me that he had to come out and say that.
Well, a lot of people have been really...
It's a disclaimer, trust me.
Right. So, like, I know the way WoW did it was they didn't just, like, enforce. Like, if a GM was in the game and saw Mr. Poopy Pants or whatever running around on his warrior, he wouldn't arbitrarily ban him. But if somebody complained, they would file a ticket and they would make the guy change his name. That's kind of how Blizzard did it. It was like community enforcement, right? But
Right.
what I've noticed though with the TOR community is people are like really aggro, even not our peers. I mean, and I'm as nerdy as they get, but like I'm not an our peer, at least when it comes to actually playing in the game. But I mean, people, they don't want in-game holiday stuff. They don't want to see this. They want like, no strange names. And the community as a whole, and maybe it's because it's Star Wars and it's just been around for a long time and there's a lot more hardcore fan base. But, those people already on a normal server, they're like, hey, I don't want to see this stuff. So the fact that it's designated an RP server and they're not going to enforce it, I actually thought that was pretty interesting.
Well, they say they're not going to enforce the RP aspect on an RP PvP server. Now, they might do something to enforce it on a straight up role playing server if they have, not an RP PvP, but a straight up RP. They might do something more with them. One of the games I've played that had the largest role playing community was on the Matrix Online, and
Oh, I
they
remember
did
that,
no
yeah.
support on that. It was all community, man. They were adamant, even though we had an entire guild that literally tried to screw all those people over. But.
So have they said? Have they said? I mean, obviously they've said there's PVE and PvP servers. We know that. Then they said that there will be RP servers, but I guess RP servers by default will be PVE, and then there's going to be RP PvP specific. To me, that kind of defeats the point, because I mean, if you were on an RP server, you would think it would be PvP by default, right? Because Republic and Sith are going to fight each other, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Well, yes and no, because some people want to. RP comes back from the roots of playing tabletop, and
Right.
generally a group is all on the same team against the game master who's running the game, which is basically the PVE. So if you want to go back to the roots, RP is kind of PVE in its roots. Unless you always have that one guy at your D&D group who wants to be the chaotic evil guy who secretly tries to kill the rest of the group because.
That was always me.
Because his mom didn't love him enough and he never had a girlfriend. But we're gonna get away from that, Andy. I
think the RP designation is a convention to communicate to the player when selecting a server what the playstyle on that server is, even if it's not heavily enforced by customer service. It's basically a way that when the community there starts saying, starts role playing, which can be off-putting to people who don't role play, the community can say, you picked a role playing server.
Right. They're like, get the hell out, dude. This is our house.
I mean, get the hell out if this isn't interesting to you. What's interesting is that they're talking about PvP servers and not enforcing the RP part. And I wonder if they feel that PvP is going to sort of lead to people being more contentious. And they don't want to deal with the customer service nightmare of that guy that beat you being reported every 3 seconds for some RP, some RP slight, like, R2D2 isn't pronounced that way. That's an R3, D4. And then this flood of customer service. This guy isn't RPing. And it's really sort of retribution for the PvP side of the game.
Well, and I think, originally to the kind of original topic, I think, Mike, that's kind of what Stephen Reed alluded to in his thread, right?
Yeah, that sort of seems what he's going for. I think you're right that it was a disclaimer, and I think Stephen had a really good point.
Back in the days when I started EQ, when EverQuest launched back in the day, I played on the original PvP server, okay, when there was only one, Rouse Zek, and it was full PvP. You could attack anybody. And that's what I want in a game, okay? That's what I would really like to see in Star Wars. I want there to be the option to have full PvP servers because, more than attacking the Sith, I think I'd feel more betrayed by the Jedi Knight who got 5, 6, 7 million dark side points or whatever and is running around in Coruscant with, a red lightsaber. That's the guy I want to kill. And I won't be able to.
TK.
He'll be standing there like right in front of the Jedi Temple, like all completely evil, and I'll be like, I want to kill you so bad, and he'll be like, yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Duel me. No, declined. Darn.
That that would actually be a really cool game mechanic for an RP server is if somebody was like dark side and you were light side, even though you were the same faction, you could still attack them, kind of like PvP.
Almost like it flags you, you know.
Right. Like it's like a dark side flag or something. That would be really cool.
Well, like BioWare said, shout loud enough.
Yeah, yeah. Here we go again. Yeah, community, go post on the BioWare or on the TOR forums. Tell them you want it. But hey, guys, I think I'm going to do a couple of shout-outs here, and I think we're going to wrap the show for today. So real quick, I wanted to give a shout-out to Trooper Nick and D. Stuper from Twitter. Both of you guys submitted questions you wanted us to talk about Trooper healing, but unfortunately those topics are still bound by NDA, so we cannot discuss those. And also from Google+, Ben DeBrock and Gustav Lindquist, I hope I pronounced your name right. You want to hear about Trooper healing as well. And yeah, again, NDA bound, but we do appreciate you guys submitting your questions. But yeah, guys, I think there's some music playing here in the background, so I want to thank everybody for hanging out. That means that we are running out of time. So, Steven, it's been great having you on the show. Dave and Mike, thanks for hanging out. You guys have any final thoughts here while we have a little minute to close the show?
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, you're always welcome.
Anytime, Mike.
I just wanted to say, it's great to be part of the team here, and can't wait to see more on.
Corporal Kern, clean the latrine.
Yeah, there you go. Get to work, Trooper.
I already did that already.
With your toothbrush this time.
Oh, and he didn't notice. Why did you have to tell him?
Yeah, okay, guys, there we go. So yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out. That's it for Combat Chatter Episode 2. That is in the books. Again, thanks Dave and Mike from Republic Trooper. Thanks Steven from Guild Launch for hanging out with us. Thanks to all of you out there for listening. Until next time, you have been listening to Combat Chatter. I am your host, Andy at Republic Trooper, and we'll catch you guys later. Peace.
You've been listening to Combat Chatter, brought to you by RepublicTrooper.com. Join the community at www.republictrooper.com, on Facebook at facebook.com/RepublicTrooper, or on Twitter at Republic Trooper. Thanks for listening. Tune in next time.